If someone accused me of being a late bloomer, I would have to plead guilty because it was only in my early 30s
Yeah.
that it finally came to me, my purpose, which was teaching, and later still my second purpose, which was in the service of mental health. Along that journey
Yeah.
of the first 30 years, I was quite nomadic, and I mean that both metaphorically and physically, in that there was a lot of exploration, a lot of different subjects, realms, sectors, and I don't take the fact that I had the privilege of doing that lightly or for granted at all, because it is those hits and misses and those experiences that have fashioned me into the individual that I am, into
Yeah.
whatever little knowledge I encompass. And
Hmm.
also, chiefly, were precisely the elements that were instrumental in bringing me to those certain deeper realizations. Now, I say this because I completely understand and appreciate that a lot of people don't have that privilege, and they have to adopt certain life paths, professions, etc.,
Hmm.
owing to certain compulsions that are completely beyond their control, and therefore many of their decisions are not necessarily of their own choosing, even if they have the wisdom and insight of being fairly well acquainted with who they really are. Uh, Simplistic as this sounds, in my own lay person's understanding, the fact that a vast majority of us ends up in life paths that aren't necessarily mm, uh, 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 in keeping with our true inner selves, there is a certain amount of discontentment and frustration that
Right.
creeps in and manifests in various forms that
Yeah.
ultimately leads to a fairly unhappy society. It is very easy to sit and preach when one has been lucky enough, but that's certainly not the idea here. The idea here is that as a society, as we develop, and as a nation, as we become more self assured and more well heeled and progressive, we have an opportunity perhaps to at least emotionally and intellectually understand the importance and the sort of critical nature of undertaking that investigation. Whether we are able to implement it or not is a separate issue. And I
Hmm.
also do believe that we are in an environment where more and more of us will be able to explore and implement those avenues and those findings. We are calling this session Espouse the Elemental. I think in an era where we are being led very, very quickly by changes brought about in terms of technology, a certain unsurety as far as the future goes, wars all around us. It's even more important for each of us as individuals to seek out our uniquenesses and our individuality. And joining us to talk about this is somebody I feel is very, very ideally suited to this dialogue. She is an Akashic record reader and a Theta healer. In the interest of full disclosure, I have had the privilege of knowing her for the better part of 3 decades,
Yeah.
and we've both had extremely interesting and diverse individual journeys and have arrived at certain pivotal moments in our lives, shall I say. So, Ankita is joining us. I want to welcome her and extend my heartfelt gratitude for making the time and suggesting this theme in the first place, which resonates with me deeply, and I suspect it will with you too. So, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. And lovely to be here. And thank you for the lovely introduction. And yes, I think we've all somewhere made a lot of detours and come to this whole point of questioning why, how, and what. And that brings us to the core of this title, which is authenticity. And I guess we are struggling with it today, most of us. somewhere I did previously, because you're walking a tightrope of expectations, whether it comes from family, whether it comes from friends, and culture around you. And if you don't fit in, then you are easily discarded, and it's next. So it's a issue that even I was struggling with, and I'm very happy that we found a topic to converse about it and help people how to connect to their inner selves.
Absolutely. Before we get into that and sharing insights, and be warned because I have my own as well, I would love for you to explain to our viewers at least a brief overview of the modalities that you practice.
Yes. So Akashic record is like a cosmic eye library, and whatever your thoughts, action, deeds have been since past many lifetimes, or even currently, they're stored somewhere, right? Like our photographs or our videos. So, through a guided meditation and through the permission, I access a person's Akashic record using their name and a prayer. And that reveals at a soul level what are their current energy shifts that are needed for them. And then with Theta healing, I incorporate to help remove the subconscious belief system that has been rooted deep inside, to help a person at least come to the knowing of what needs to be healed. So holding a space, a safe space, emotionally, being very non-judgmental is what I offer. And it's more like being a lighthouse for the person who's coming to me, because there is denial. I won't, say that there is no. There are a lot of people who are in denial. I was in denial for the longest time, and it takes time. And it's just that I support a person as a guide, and instead of giving advice, I would probably help them uh, calibrate their inner GPS. So that's my work
Hmm.
majorly.
That's wonderful. I have two more quick questions relating to your specific practice, and then we move on to our theme. One is just for the interest of our viewers' better understanding. Is this work that you need to or do in person? Is it done online?
Yeah, so it's online, it's an audio call, it's not even a video call, because I don't want to look at a person's emotions and have a bias. I want to make sure that my thoughts are coming from a sacred space, and I'm being a channel to let them know what shifts they need to do, rather than observing their emotions and letting their energy affect me, and giving them an answer which is not filled with integrity. So it is an audio call, and it can be done anywhere around the world. And of course, you need to be in a like you need to be alone with yourself without getting disturbed by your phones. And whatever is discussed is always confidential, and it's sacred work. So through permission is where the work begins. Yeah.
You've inadvertently shared an extremely critical element of your practice that I wish to underscore, which is that because it's online doesn't mean that you will have, as a client, more screen exposure. So that's one, if not more, reason to perhaps explore. And I also found the name quite interesting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sixth element. So I think the sixth element is our consciousness. I mean, we are all coming from the five elements, that is water, air, earth, and we say ethers, the space. But I would also like to add that consciousness is what kind of binds us, and kind of, I think we have a light in all of us. It's not that I am gifted with the intuition or this awareness. I think it's also in you, it's also in the person around us. But to have that consciousness to even make an effort to walk this path, that where you need to be more in aligned with your own thoughts, I would suggest that a person has to also think that there's a sixth element. which is awareness. And that's where the name came from. Uh, yeah.
That's a wonderful explanation. Chalo then. So I wanted to begin with this simply by submitting that, well, by sheer consequence of being an educator now for 12, 13 years, routinely interacting, bulk of my interactions tend to be with middle and high school students. And let me preface this very clearly with saying and confessing that I'm a huge believer in and of the youth and of young people. And I really do believe that any tectonic shift in society ought to be led through them and amongst them. But of course, I have had certain observations, which is that chiefly, while broadly speaking, a younger generation is a lot more exposed and smarter, quote unquote, than I find myself to have ever been, I do feel that they're much smarter, but they're not necessarily in sync. And let me quickly share what I mean through a couple of examples. A lot of youngsters these days, because of our education system and these unreasonably high cutoffs for colleges, etc., are starting to venture abroad a lot sooner and in
Mm.
larger quantities than ever was the case previously. Now, we all
Right.
know that college admissions abroad is an arduous process. It's not just about marks, and they want to, sort of try and figure out what kind of a person the candidate is, what they've done in terms of their social outreach, etc. And in a lot of these endeavors, parents go also out of their way to create that infrastructure for their children. But I find that in an overwhelming majority of cases, for instance, if a parent has even gone to the extent of opening an NGO for that child so that he or she may be able to demonstrate to the college that, listen, I've done so and so work, they know little or nothing and have little or no genuine investment in that cause. Similarly, even in terms of academic choices and choices of what courses to study and subjects to read, these decisions tend to be governed more by a certain trend stroke mob mentality rather than the student's own individual, genuine sort of, inner questioning. So there is this. I don't like using that term, but there is this certain superficiality that has come into the existence in terms of young people. And I find it tragic because, like I said, they're infinitely more aware of other things, they're infinitely more exposed, and they have a lot more infrastructure opportunity at their disposal. But they are not being able to bring their authentic selves to their own lives. And that's where I want to sort of begin by asking you your views and observations. And if you agree, why is it important, silly as it sounds, to seek that individuality and trueness?
It's a very powerful question. I'm a parent myself, and yes, I have struggled with this whole thing about, are they world ready? Are they walking the right path? Will they have the right job? You know, will they survive the competition? So, what are the things that they need? As a parent, is where you start your journey. But recently, I have also, I think, being in this field, the healing field itself has made me realize that authenticity, connecting to who you are, takes a child a long way from not just college admission, but to surviving life situations when they become adults. So here, I have started asking my children who you are, how do you feel. If there is a question that they are not sure how they should answer, the simple fact that we have a practice at home is like, what do you think about it? So holding space for that child. So without, of course, as a parent, giving advice and giving direction comes very naturally and intuitively. but also trying to give them that space and say, do you want me to give you an advice or do you want me to listen? So I think that's where they start opening up and actually hearing themselves what they really want to do. When you know what you really want to do, I think you will do it with a lot of joy and playfulness. And that itself will propel you in whichever field, wherever you go, in whichever college you apply. So I'm sure a lot of colleges get students who are writing essays. They are really good at it and they have got great marks. But I have started to wonder that if my son has to get into the best college, he needs to tell the college what is he bringing as a person to that college, as a
Absolutely.
student, as an applicant, rather than the marks that he already has. Of course, it plays a role. But in his essays, I think what needs to stand out is like, what is he going to contribute? And that, I think, even if I outsource the essay, he will not survive in that college for more than a year.
Yep.
So it is very important that he from now starts realizing these are my potentials, this is where I'm good at. And as a parent, I feel okay, if you're good at this, then I would help you, support you. If this is your field of interest, rather than saying, no, you need to be great in your, let's say you need to be great in maths or you need to be a footballer. So I will only push you to do all these classes so that you get into a school or college. But if you're good in history, and this is where your interest lies, and this is what really you are so curious about how the world happened, what is geopolitics, then I will support you as a parent in that, because then that seems to be your skill. And then propel you in towards that particular subject and maybe figure out if there's something that can help you, because eventually he'll have to present himself to the outer world. And if I will never be around for that long, but then if he has to talk from his own authenticity, then I think who he truly is matters a lot. And that's where, as a parent, you can start figuring out where your child is leaning towards.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to broaden the scope of this a little bit.
Sure.
Well, and I'll tell you why. Um, a certain disconnect with one's true self
Hmm.
tends to happen to a lot of us, irrespective of our age, stage, and gender. I'm going to talk from a slightly generalized but very Indian lens, where you often find, in the case of men, particularly men who belong to a fairly patriarchal kind of a family and microconstruct, they sometimes unwittingly and unwantingly inherit the kind of work that they're going to do later on in life, so on and so forth. The flip side of that, in terms of women, as we all know, tragically, is that thrust with numerous thankless roles and duties, a lot of women tend to slowly experience this diminishing in identities until what once upon a time that individual was is all but extinct. So there are various different situations and societal circumstances that can bring a person to a crossroads where perhaps a reacquainting and a re-examination of the inner self ought to take place. Now, I don't really have a question. I mean to get your own thoughts and observations around this. Is that how does one even begin to do that?
Hmm.
Oftentimes, during the academic process of doing that, one may unearth a particular self that doesn't sit well with family, society, etc. And therefore, what is a long established status quo needs to be upended and re-established. That itself is an exceedingly hard task, whether it is resetting boundaries, whether it is, ostensibly a middle aged lady who suddenly seen to be going off and exploring a particular realm in life, and then all of that brickbats of oh ho ye to selfish ho gayi hai, or she's forgotten her duties and blah blah. So I just want to get your observations on how this journey inward and this examination can effectively take place. And once it's taken place, how can those new findings even be implemented or manifested in what tends to be a very, very restrictive society?
Yeah, this is like a practical life situation. uh, I would say it all begins with why. So when I have my sessions, there are people who are they're very good in their professional life. They have reached a certain level of let's say hierarchy, but at times there is a disconnect from within,
Hmm.
and like you have every material thing around you to kind of comfort you, but there is this inner void. And where does that come from? So that leads me to your question that we are stuck with the shoulds and the must haves.
Yep.
Now, that happens from a lot of conditioning while we are growing up. As you mentioned, the patriarchy man, he is supposed to behave in a certain role. There are expectations on him. So and these are not some of them are very subtle for
Hmm.
even men to know that they are kind of influenced by the patriarchy.
Yep. Yep.
The only way to truly actually figure this out is to have a regular check-in with yourself, that why is it that I'm doing whatever I'm doing, why am I doing it? Is it to please somebody else? Then you're coming from a people pleaser kind of a thing. Is it because it's a norm? Then these are your subconscious belief systems which need to be cleared. That if I work hard, then only I will be accepted in my family. If I'm myself, I will not be loved or respected. So those are subconscious belief systems which need to be cleared, and they play out in the adult life. So these questions are very important. And if you're working from your inner self, you will not betray yourself. You will not feel that you are meant to betray who you're supposed to be. But the minute you people please because you want to fit into a particular group, you want to make sure that you're invited for a particular dinner, then I think it will stick for a while, but then eventually it's going to fall off. The layers will come out. And then you are like, oh, who am I? Where am I? Oh, I feel so lonely. So, in the real life situation, probably a regular check in with oneself that if I am doing this particular thing, what are my intentions? Why am I doing it? Those major questions kind of help you reset whether you're behaving or you're acting from integrity or not.
Hmm. Um, mm, mm, mm. I know that both you and I, being parents, invariably, when one is contemplating life's bigger issues, uh,
Yeah.
I think unconsciously there is a tendency of viewing it from a parental lens as well.
Yeah.
Now, wouldn't you agree, therefore, that it's very, very important to be mindful of language also? And I'll give you an example.
Right.
My daughter's 8. When she's interacting with my mother, her dadi,
Hmm.
her dadi will very casually and not meaning any harm by it, but will say something like, "Oh, your dad was always a rebel, and he
Hmm.
he never followed the straight and narrow."
Hmm.
Now, a child's interpretation of that statement could potentially not be positive, because the word rebel, she is astute enough to understand, is usually used in a negative
Negative
context.
thing. Yeah.
So I think we have to also be very careful about our phraseology of certain things, which itself, there are certain words that lend a positive or a negative charge to a situation or a human being.
That's true. That's absolutely true. That's why you have to be mindful about how you say it and what you say, because they say words are like spellings, they cast a spell. And I also remember that in my childhood, there were certain instances, maybe certain comments made. But you tend to forget because you get on, you grow old. But now when you go into your own healing, you're like, oh my God, that sentence, that word was stuck somewhere inside of me. And it was not supposed to harm me. It was a comment loosely made by someone, but that kind of shaped the person who I have become now. So, absolutely right. Like the language that you use at home, obviously, we don't want to be toxically positive. We don't want to bypass certain things that have to happen as parents. We can be stern, we can be disciplined, we can be disciplining towards them. But I think when you make a mistake in front of your own children, also we should have the humility to apologize.
Hmm.
Like there are times that even I have been snapping at my children, and then I go up to them and say, I'm so sorry that I said those things, or I didn't mean it that way. Because you never know where it's sitting in their head and how and what shape it's going to take later on in life. So, yeah, to be mindful.
There is, there are lots of conduits and options to journey to the inner self.
Yeah.
There are any number of modalities. I want you to talk a little bit specifically about your support and guidance in terms of what an individual could expect specifically from you as part of this process.
Sometimes knowing is healing itself. So when you come with a session, for a session to with me, and we go into your records, somewhere just knowing why certain things are happening, why certain patterns are being repeated, why is it that you have a block towards money? Knowing that itself releases a lot of subconscious belief, and that itself is healing sometimes. And then you know that you have to shift your energy and create something better. Also, when you come for a session, I come from the fact, and I truly believe that nothing is set in stone. That it's not that your future is already created. People come with a lot of fear that I don't want to know what my past is all about,
Hmm.
or because sometimes knowing yourself is very messy. I'm
Hmm.
not denying that. It
Hmm.
can
More
be.
often than not, it is.
Yes, but it is nothing to be feared for because the records or during theta healing, only things that need to be cleared will show
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
And of course, like you, I hold a space which is non-judgmental, and it takes time for people to come out of their disbelief to belief. So that is what a session would entitle majorly.
I want to ask you a slightly controversial question. Perhaps you're not somebody who needs to have an answer to this. Also, I'm viewing this from a very specific lens of one's profession or livelihood.
Okay,
Let's say that there is a scenario in which X individual realizes that, okay, fine, this is my purpose and this is what I want to dedicate my life to.
right.
And it so happens also that that purpose doesn't yield nearly enough, to put it crudely, funds to enable the other duties and obligations that individual has. Uh, what what can one do when there's that sort of conflict?
Yes, money is important because the world that we live in, uh, money is the currency. Yeah. But money is also energy. So if I operate from lack and fear, that, oh my God, I don't know if I've not made so many, if I've not had so many clients this month, how am I going to make it through? Then I am already telling the universe that I'm not sure about my talents, my wisdom, and my intuition. But if I come from the fact that I want to help people who are in a similar situation like me, money will come, clients will come, things will fall in place. So if I already believe this, that everything is working out for me in my highest good, eventually the clients will come, the money will come, everything will fall in place. Yes, but at that moment, when you have to pay your bills, when you have to take care of yourself and your family, there is a little bit of hesitance. And it happens to me also. But then I include my practices where I ask myself, why am I scared? What will happen if I don't have that? Okay. And then I keep investigating. So I investigate that fear. And then I come to a place that if I have been taken care of, I will also be taken care of in the future. And there is a universe which is supporting me. So that is the belief that is helping me currently.
That's such a wonderful answer, one that certainly brings a lot of hope to somebody like myself. Finally, I want to ask you, and I actually end up asking this of most of our guests who are practitioners or therapists or
Yeah.
healers. We all understand, for again, a variety of reasons, a lot of people in our country don't have access to or are not in a position to seek the professional intervention and guidance of somebody such as yourself
Yeah.
in a very simple manner, specifically with reference to becoming better acquainted with the inner true self. What might be a few things that people could do by themselves fairly easily, especially in scenarios where they can't really have support or guidance?
Yeah, that's important because, yeah, doing sessions, going for healing may not be easily available and may not be affordable. I would start off with a daily check in with oneself. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? For me, that's a big one. I even try and I also let in my kids that they need to check in with themselves when
Huh,
they're in
but
school.
explain. A lot of people say this, and one
Yeah.
understands the merit of it. But please explain, check in a little more in detail, perhaps with an example.
Why am I afraid of losing this friendship? As simple as that. Okay, because then I won't be considered a cool kid.
Hmm.
I won't fit in. I will
Hmm.
be that weirdo who's sitting outside.
Hmm.
But then, do I really want to make friends with them? Are they really my people?
Hmm.
Actually, not. They are not. So then, should I still do this? Maybe not. So these questions, because when you are your authentic self, and when you calibrate and align your inner self, you will meet the right people who will accept you the way you are. It might take time, but you want to be with people who will accept you, who will make you
Hmm.
feel seen and heard, rather than being with a mob or a crowd just to be amongst the cool kids.
Correct.
So that would be your regular check in. It would be also, the second thing would be journaling with intention. I know journaling is wildly said many a times in these sessions, but journaling with intention. And when you journal, you see where you started and where you have reached. You will see that you've made the shift. So
Hmm.
it's actually also to um, let yourself feel proud of yourself that how far you've come. Journaling is not just writing what your manifestations are or what you want in life, but it's also about, if you cannot talk to that person who's hurt you, but if you can write it on a piece of paper and get it all out of your system, maybe you will respond and not react. The third thing I would add is figuring out what you're feeling in your body. So if you're feeling it on your face, then it's usually shame, that you're acting from shame. If it's from your heart, then maybe you're acting from fear or grief. If it's your stomach, then you're probably acting from guilt. So where is that sensation
Hmm.
coming up in your body is extremely important. So
Hmm.
these three techniques would be very useful to help peel the layers.
Yeah, I especially resonate with the first one and the third one, especially because it is so symbiotic, the whole mind-body connection, which
Yeah.
also we oftentimes undervalue and underestimate. So, does it require resilience to take this inward journey? or does resilience come from discovering the true self?
I think it's both ways. So, with clarity, I believe comes courage.
Hmm.
And courage is nothing but resilience to do one thing that really resonates with your true self. So, once you have clarity of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, then you will get courage. Courage will come. And with courage will come confidence. And resilience will happen. But yes, you have to keep at it because it's very easy to slip in. It's very easy to fall back into what is famous and what is accepted around us. So, sitting with oneself, I would highly recommend. It's not being lonely, it's about being alone with oneself. So, maybe just sitting by yourself in a park, in a cafe, or also at home. These few things would really help build resilience and reconnection with your inner self.
Wonderful. If this were a paper, you'd get an 8 double plus. I do want to end by using myself as an example, just to exemplify to viewers and listeners that this change is entirely possible if a deeply superficial individual like myself can do it. Although only in my early 40s, I was somebody very much trapped in the Moh Maya Jal, where it would be of incredible importance to me, things such as what vehicle was I seen to be arriving in at a
Mm.
particular event and things of that nature. And I don't, I'm not proud of the other extreme that I've gone to, but suffice to say that I'm absolutely unfazed and unaffected now by wearing a torn t-shirt and landing up in an auto rickshaw. So I feel very good these days, generally, having rid myself of a lot of these trappings that we create for ourselves and society sometimes solicits in us. It's been a wonderful interaction. We wish you the very best. Thank you for all the lovely insights that you've shared and hope to be in touch.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely.